Hey, what's going on, wrestling fans? My name is Brian Crazy. You're watching my brand, that and brand of wrestling and entertainment here on YouTube.com and the World Wide Web. Since 2010, proudly providing you with the wrestling news, reviews, rumors, insight that you're growing accustomed to. And you saw this hell-less video. I am back with my TNA Impact Wrestling review for May 30th, 2013. We start off the night with a recap of the events over the last few weeks, and then we go backstage with the Aces and Eights. This was a really good opening segment, and then we go directly into the ring. Tonight's show just flowed so well, and we go into the ring, and we get Bully Ray, the president of Aces and Eights, and we get his brother Devon. And Bully Ray cuts a short promo, really framing the night, really framing going into the Slammiversary pay-per-view, really setting the tone, letting everybody know that this is the go-home show. They're only 3 days away from Slammiversary, and he gets business done pretty damn quick. This isn't too long of a promo, but it got the job done. Then he calls out Sting and Joseph Park, who is him and Devon's opponents in this tag match tonight. And Sting and Joseph Park end up getting the win over Bully Ray and Devon. This is after Abyss's music hits during the match, and even Joseph Park, playing up the part, really looked surprised, like he didn't know what was going on. Bully Ray ends up going up the ramp on this distraction. Sting capitalizes. He ends up hitting the Scorpion Death Drop, 1, 2, 3, and picks up the win for his team. Then Dixie Carter, the president of TNA Wrestling, comes out, and she talks about Slammiversary. She talks about the TNA Hall of Fame, and then she's interrupted by 3 members of the Aces and Eights: Doc, Wes Briscoe, and Garrett Bischoff. And I really have to say, Garrett Bischoff cut a great promo tonight. No, I'm not jumping on the Garrett Bischoff bandwagon, but I honestly feel like he's really been boxed in his time in TNA Wrestling. I really felt like they sent him out when he was too green. I really felt like he really needed a little more experience, a little more training under his belt before he was elevated to the main roster. This may have been a case of nepotism. I mean, look who his father is, Eric Bischoff, who I have the utmost respect for. I think Eric Bischoff has done a lot of good in the wrestling business to a lot of bad he's done in the wrestling business. I mean, everything is subjective. It's from everybody's different take and different point of view, this, that, or the other. So I shouldn't be victimized because I think a guy has done some good things in the wrestling business. And I really feel like it was a case of nepotism. He got elevated too quickly. He really didn't get too much training under his belt. And you know what? You have to blame the TNA management. You have to blame Eric Bischoff for maybe, influencing the TNA management to elevate him to that position. And now, unfortunately, he's been typecast into this role. And tonight, he kind of proved that he could be a little bit bigger than that role. But I just hope that he doesn't end up like an Eric Watts or a Greg Gagne, because that's really what it's seeming like. He was just pushed too fast, too soon, and now his achievements are starting to catch up with the hype. But is it a little too late in this instance? But we see these 3 guys. They come out, and like I said, Bischoff did cut a great promo. I really did like it. A lot of intensity. And they end up backing Dixie Carter into a corner. This is where we see Samoa Joe and Magnus come out and make the save. And this ends up turning into a one-on-one match. Samoa Joe versus Eric Bischoff. Wow. Garrett Bischoff. And this match really didn't go anywhere. Ended up no contest, and it ended up just basically setting up towards a big 6-man tag match that's going to happen at the Slammiversary pay-per-view. Those 3 members of Aces and Eights versus Samoa Joe, Magnus, and we get a big surprise. Jeff Hardy's going to return and team with those 2 guys. Now, was the match really necessary? Was it just filler? Could they have just announced the big 6-man match after the confrontation with Dixie Carter and they made the save? Really just... out of everything tonight, this was the one segment that just kind of felt out of place. Just being perfectly honest. I'm not trying to nitpick, but I'm just being honest. Then we go into a backstage promo with Storm and Gunner, and I really felt like this promo was good. Don't get me wrong, it was good. A lot of intensity out of Gunner, and I like intensity. I respect intensity. I respect when somebody's willing to go out there and put it all on the line, regardless of what the reaction is, negative or positive. They're willing to take their lumps. They're willing to take their beatings. They're willing to put their emotion into it. And I really feel like those are the best characters, the ones that are natural extensions of their own personalities. When a character's forced on somebody, they're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to be able to embrace it. But when the character is their own personality, just churned up 100 times, that's the best characters that you've seen in professional wrestling. Some of the characters to come out of, WWF in the late 90s were exactly those type of characters, natural extensions of their own personalities. And I think a lot of people just don't respect these athletes. I think they don't view them as even fellow human beings. They just view them as people on a television show. These are human beings that are going out there and putting their necks on the line for our entertainment. And yeah, when the wrestler goes out there and gives us a piss-poor performance and doesn't try, yeah, then he doesn't deserve our respect. He doesn't deserve to be cheered. He doesn't deserve any sort of reaction, even a boo, because that may be feeding his ego, to be perfectly honest. But when a wrestler goes out there and he's just incredible and he puts it all on the line, That's the guys that deserve our respect. That's a fellow human being putting his neck on the line. He could end up paralyzed. But, a lot of people just lose sight of that. And that's why I stress that and emphasize that so much in my videos. But we see a great promo out of Gunner. But it was a little over the top. A lot of intensity, but a little over the top, comparing his time in the service, saying that, he killed for the country, and James Storm is going to have him kill for him. I mean, kind of not getting the connection here, but I understand. But it just seemed a little over the top, and I'm sure you guys, a lot of you that saw the promo, will understand. Then we go into a huge 8-man tag team match. We end up seeing Gunner and Storm pick up the win over TNA's Bad Influence, Chavo and Hernandez, and Austin Aries and Brood. This is after Gunner put Austin Aries in the torture rack. Nice throwback to Lex Luger in the past. And, I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, oh my God, they buried Austin Aries. No, they're giving a new guy an opportunity. And once upon a time, when a new guy could get a win over an established star, that increased his stock. Now you've seen so many matches just replayed and replayed and replayed and done over week and week and week and week. That's starting to lose its meaning. But in TNA, they've kept it careful who's faced who, what matches have gone on where, and I really like where Impact Wrestling's going. I mean, to be perfectly honest, guys, a lot of you may not be familiar with the power structure in TNA Wrestling at this point in time. Yes, Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff do hold a lot of power, but at the end of the day, the creative direction of the company and the talent is the responsibility of Mr. Bruce Pritchard. He is the Senior Vice President of Talent Relations and the Executive of Programming. And this man was the right-hand man for Vince McMahon for 20-plus years. A lot of people don't realize that. The only reason he left WWE is because Stephanie and Triple H have been trying to consolidate their power, and Stephanie felt like it was his time to move on. Go back and watch any DVD, and who's standing right next to Vince McMahon in any of the old footage. Go back and watch any interview, and who is going to be praised, who's going to be talked about, who's going to be mentioned. That's Bruce Pritchard, Brother Love, well, let's not mention Rio Rogers, but this is a great, great, great man, a great mind, and you could tell since he's gotten control of TNA Wrestling, the direction, the change in this company, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And you know what? It's been a balancing act. It's a new company. They're 11 years old. They're not going to get everything right off the bat. And a lot of people try to say, well, WCW was only 10 years old, but they had bigger ratings. They had it right. No, WCW was a lot older than that. Yes, WCW under Turner's control was from 1988, 89 to 2001. But before that, that was built on the foundation of Jim Crockett Promotions, which was a great NWA member going back into, God, I don't know the exact, I don't know if it was the 60s, the 50s, or the 40s, so I don't even want to guess off the top of my head, but we're talking a promotion that was around for years. I mean, JCP, Jim Crockett Promotions, was selling out Greensboro. The Greensboro Coliseum, to the point where they were clogging interstate highways. And this was way before the Turner acquisition. I mean, wrestling, especially Turner stations, were based around professional wrestling. So it was a lot different. So making the comparisons in, how long the Turner-owned WCW was around with the amount of stars, the money they had, and they were also being fueled by Turner Broadcasting, then Time Warner. I mean, there's a huge difference here. So that's an argument that's really invalid. But we end up getting Gunner and Storm picking up the win in this 8-man tag match. And then we go into another backstage promo. Bully Ray, aces and eights, and he's putting everybody on notice. After the situation with D'Lo Brown, after the situation with AJ Styles last week, he wants his guys to impress him. They need to wreak havoc on TNA Wrestling. It is all-out war against TNA Wrestling, and if they don't get the job done, there may not be a place for them within the group, within the aces and eights, and that includes his own brother, Devon. Every single person was put on notice. Then we go into Knockouts promo, and we get Mickie James. She comes out, Velvet Sky ends up coming out, and we eventually get Gail Kim. But the highlight of this promo was the way Mickie James was addressing Velvet Sky. At first, she was sweet as can be. She was playing up on her southern charm, and I met Mickie James in person. And out of all the wrestlers I've met, and I've met a lot of professional wrestlers. I've met Kurt Angle. I've met Madison Rayne. I've met, oh God, the list goes on and on and on, guys. Maybe I should do a video and share that with you guys. But Mickie James was one of the sweetest people that I've ever met. I mean, absolute sweetheart, real southern belle. I mean, just a great, great, great person. I can't say enough nice things about Mickie James. And her promo tonight, you could tell she was just starting to have those heel tendencies. There's been a lot of talks about turning Mickie James heel. And I thought first maybe they were going to decide to go a different route and turn Velvet heel. But you could tell in this promo with the subtle jabs, and it was a little over the top. Don't get me wrong. I felt like the promo with Gunner and this promo were just a little over the top tonight. It did get the job done, don't get me wrong, but a little over the top. But you could tell those heel tendencies. You could tell that she was trying to get out of the rematch with Velvet, and I really felt like this promo came off well, but like I said, just a little over the top on the part of Mickie James. Then we go into tag team action. No wasting time here. Gail Kim was already out there, and we go right into tag team action. I really like the flow of tonight's show. Chris Sabin and Taryn Terrell ended up picking up the win over Kenny King and Gail Kim, and this was a good match. We end up seeing Sabin end up picking up the win for his team. This is after Taryn hit the spear, and post-match, King tries to capitalize. He tries to hit the Royal Flush, excuse me, guys. I'm getting off, I didn't do an update when I started off this video. I'm getting off a real bad cold that I ended up turning into a situation called pleurisy. If you guys aren't familiar with pleurisy, it's when you end up becoming dehydrated. There's a lining on the outside of your lung and a lining on the inside of your chest wall. And there's a fluid in between. And when you become dehydrated, this fluid disappears. And if you can imagine the outside of your lung, inside of your chest wall is 2 pieces of saran wrap. They're sticking, and every time I cough or sneeze or even move, try to lay down, they're pulling apart. Now, over the last day, I've started feeling better, but I don't want to push it. I don't want to talk for too long. I don't want to try to move too much. As you guys know, I've been trying to sit really still during this video. Usually I'm flailing my arms around. That's my Italian-American heritage. I talk with my hands. I'm a very vocal person. I feel what I say. And yeah, that's about it, guys. So I'm trying to get better. As you guys can tell, my voice is still shot. I ended up at the hospital for the second time in 2 weeks. The first time is when I broke my finger, and thank God the splint is finally gone. I'm starting to get a little bit of bend back in that hand, and once I get over this pleurisy, I'm looking forward to the summer. It was absolutely beautiful today in Connecticut, almost 90 degrees, and I just can't wait to have a great summer with my little boys, my wife, and just enjoy life, because that's what it's about. I mean, there's so many people that even come on this website and they troll people and they harass people and they waste all this time. Get outside, do something creative, spend your life doing something. I mean, Jesus Christ, you obviously have to have a screw loose if you're going to make a whole bunch of fake accounts and just, harass people for no effing reason. I just don't get it, and I probably never will get it. So we see Kenny King try to hit the Royal Flush after the match on Chris Sabin, and Suicide ends up coming out. He ends up taking out Kenny King, and this was just setting the stage for the Ultimate X match that's going to happen at this Slammiversary pay-per-view this Sunday night. Then we go into the main event. Mr. Anderson versus AJ Styles, and Mr. Anderson needs to get a little redemption. He's the one that was pushing for AJ Styles to be in the group. He's the one that even put the cut on AJ Styles, put the vest on AJ Styles last week. And you know what? This was a pretty good match. He actually dominated the early part of this match. And two, we see, disqualification happen. Kurt Angle comes out. He ends up attacking AJ Styles. And it ends up turning into all-out warfare. But you didn't get the ending that you would have thought. We end up getting, Aces and H just being completely dominant yet again during the night. I mean, Aces and H just look so good tonight. They look so dominant. Their storyline was just written so well. And I hope this is an omen that Sunday night the faces are going to be successful because Aces and Eights were successful tonight, or is this setting the stage and Aces and Eights are going to absolutely dominate this Sunday at Slammiversary? And I think it's really important. I think if they're going to continue with this Aces and Eights storyline, and with the promos tonight, we saw, possible, signs towards the shuffling in the group. Could some members be eliminated? Could some fresh blood be brought in? We've already seen D'Lo Brown, taken from the vice president of this group, the man that gave them the inside access. And you would think that they would owe this man, a great debt of gratitude for what he did for them. But he failed a couple times, and that's all it takes. And it seems like loyalty only goes to a certain degree with the Aces and Eights. And they say, when you're Aces and Eights, you never walk alone, but, all the good, couple bads, it gets erased. Now, I can understand they don't tolerate bullshit, and they don't tolerate failure. I can understand that. So, like I said, could we see a shuffling in the group? And I think this Sunday is going to really frame the next several months going into Bound for Glory for TNA Wrestling. If, the Aces and Eights are dominant, and I honestly feel like they need to be dominant, because every time they've been in a wrestling match, it's a wrestling angle, and they end up losing, which makes them look even worse. And, the best kind of angles aren't wrestling angles. The best kind of angles are the angles that could be based in reality. And when you turn it into a wrestling angle, unfortunately, wrestling angles have been done and done and done and done. The crowd is used to it. It gets old, and it doesn't get over like the way they want it to. And by keeping a little bit of mystique, and by keeping a little bit of the outsider feel in the aces and eights, I really feel like it's been successful. But you come to Sunday night, and really depends on what happens. Are they successful? Do they look dominant, or do the faces? Does Team TNA get some redemption here? I really think that's going to frame going into Bound for Glory. It's really going to give us some insight what the next several months in TNA wrestling are going to look like. And I really feel like if aces and eights are going to be a continuing storyline, they either need to be dominant, or who is not dominant, who is not successful, doesn't make the cut. If they're going to set an example with D'Lo Brown, regardless that he gave him the inside access, regardless of all these things he's done, he fucks up a couple times, it's done, then they need to set the same example with all the other superstars, regardless of how damn good they are. And you know what? I hate to say this because I think Mr. Anderson's the breakout star of this group, but even Mr. Anderson, if he can't get the job done, I mean, it's not coming to fruition. It's not, the storyline's not getting any better or bigger. It's just, like I said, wrestling angle after wrestling angle and loss after loss, which is just devaluing the group, in my opinion. So they really need to shake things up. They either need to be dominant, get rid of some members, and I just probably said the same thing about 3 times over. So guys, like I said, I'm getting over this really horrible condition, and being sick and the broken finger, and I ended up getting an infection under the nail. I ended up blowing off part of the nail. It looks a lot better now, but believe it or not, this nail was as trimmed back as that nail, and blew off part of it right down, well, wrong finger, right to about there, and ended up being put on some real strong medication. Ended up making me feel absolutely sick. When I went to the hospital a couple weeks ago, I was really hoping that they would be able to address the sinus infection and the finger. I really was going for the sinus infection, but this was the biggest concern. Possible blood, bone, skin infection is a big concern. So they decided to put me on some medication for that. They could only do 1 antibiotic at a time, which makes perfect sense. But unfortunately, the sinus infection spread to my chest. I ended up getting partially dehydrated, causing this condition called pleurisy. Wreaking havoc with not only my throat, my face, my head, my chest, my hand, this medicine that's making me sick to my stomach. It was just a pretty, nasty couple of weeks. And that's why you guys haven't seen me a lot. But I'm feeling better, and every day I'm feeling better, and every day there's going to be more and more content. I made a promise to you guys that I'll be on here full-time, providing you guys with wrestling news, reviews, rumors, insight that you so desperately want, deserve. And you know what? Honestly, for the loyalty you showed me, I deserve it back, showing it back to you. So guys, it's not possible without you. I thank you for watching this video. And for the F and Brand, my name is Brian Crazy, and have a great night.